Happy holidays, everybody, and Tony here with my critique of a Power Rangers holiday episode I tried really hard to like, but I ended up feeling very disappointed in terms of its execution. I'm talking about A Season to Remember from Power Rangers Zeo, which aired on Fox Kids on November 27, 1996. This was directed by Robert Radler, and it was written by Jackie Marchand. When it comes to the Saban era of Power Rangers seasons, I do love Power Rangers Zeo, probably a little bit more than all three seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers combined. I loved the steps forward it managed to take with changing the suits from Mighty Morphin to the new Zeo suits of that season, and even seeing Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, and Kat grow not only as Power Rangers but also as people. It was also a major treat seeing Tanya as the new Yellow Ranger of that season because I thought that Tanya was rather underrated as the Yellow Ranger. She was creative, loyal to her friends, absolutely warm hearted, and she was just an overall awesome person. I even have to give major kudos to Nakia Burris in terms of her warm and very inviting performance as Tanya Sloan. Power Rangers Zeo also had the bold move of making one of the veteran Rangers, Billy, become a technical supervisor for the command center, thus making him step down from his Power Ranger duties. Moreover, it was also the season that marked the triumphant return of Jason Lee Scott, the original Red Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, who ended up becoming the Gold Zeo Ranger. There is also no doubt that I enjoyed a lot of episodes from Power Rangers Zeo, with one of my most personal favorites being Another Song and Dance because of how hilarious it was. However, as you can tell from the title below, A Season to Remember is not one of my most favorite episodes of all time. I don't think it's terrible or absolutely god-awful. Far from it. It just lacked in tension and action that I love and enjoy in many a Power Rangers season. The main problem comes from how the villain's plan was executed, as well as how the climax unfolded. Yes, everything starts off well with Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, Kat, and their friend Raymond organizing an international holiday party, and mind you, this story was told as a flashback from a much older Tommy to one of his grandsons. And I know that there are a lot of shippers of both Tomberly and Tomcat on the comment section, and I don't want any shipping wars on the comment section, so please try to keep it civil. But I will say this about the whole Tommy Kimberly versus Tommy Cat discourse. I'm okay with both pairings, but I prefer Tommy and Kimberly as a couple a lot more. I really enjoyed seeing how much Tommy and Kimberly grew together, not only as Power Rangers, but also as individuals. They were able to see each other's best, worst, and ugliest sides, and they did not flinch. Moreover, Tommy's and Kimberly's relationship was one of unconditional love and boundless trust, which are hallmarks that I never want to take for granted. When it comes to Tommy and Kat as a couple, I only tolerated it. I know that it was meant to show that Tommy moved on from Kimberly after she gave him a Dear John letter. And by the way, the Dear John letter pretty much retconned all of the warmth and the genuineness that Tommy and Kimberly had for each other during their tenure as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But I digress. That'll be a video for another time when I deal with There's No Business Like Snow Business. Suffice it to say, I thought that the whole Dear John letter affair was really forced into trying to make Tommy and Kat an item. And while Tommy and Kat eventually became a solidified couple, especially evidenced in the Boom comics where they ended up having a son in J.J. Oliver, I thought that how their relationship was built was quite forced. And it really tried to push Tommy away from Kimberly a lot more. And I do blame this on the writers because I thought that they were taking the relationship between Tommy and Kimberly completely for granted. But like I said, that'll be a rant for another time. But suffice it to say, I am okay with both pairings. It's just that I prefer Tommy and Kimberly as a couple a lot more. Tommy and Kat was okay, but the only issue I had with it was how it was built, how it was established, and how it felt more forced than natural. But going to another issue I had with this episode was that it was kind of a mess. When you combine the older Tommy's flashbacks to his younger years, to the main story at hand, to the B plot with Bulk and Skull being assigned a new mission by Detective Stone involving stolen fruitcake, then you'll realize that the whole thing just lacks in cohesion. The main story did establish the whole importance of tolerance of other cultures and beliefs rather well. What with Tanya celebrating Kwanzaa, Rocky celebrating Christmas the Mexican way, especially when he brought in tamales, Kat celebrating Christmas the Australian way, considering that every winter month is already a summer month there, and their friend Raymond celebrating Hanukkah. That's a nice setup. And of course, the machination commenced by the Machine Empire, headed by King Mondo, his wife Queen Machina, and their youngest son, Prince Sprocket, alongside their technical inventor, Clank, was also quite fascinating, what with Clank inventing a bias blaster in order to make the Rangers and their friend completely go against each other. What's also nice about this episode was that at least we get to see Alpha and Zordon celebrate the holidays. It was also very entertaining seeing Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, Kat, and Raymond bicker, squabble, and go at it at each other in terms of which holiday is the most superior, especially highlighted by Tanya's extra sassy attitude, Adam taking a notch in sarcasm, and Tommy, well, just being a little bit more of a show off, and Raymond being very frustrated at them. The whole conflict starts to go down south when Zordon can't even do anything to reverse the spell, and King Mondo takes away the Rangers and Raymond's holiday paraphernalia, from Tanya's candles and Kwanzaa, to Rocky's tamales, to Kat's barbecued shrimp, to Raymond's menorah. Everybody continues to bicker until they just finally throw the towel in. That would have made for an interesting setup for a scavenger hunt, right? Completely wrong. What happens instead is that we see an unnamed little girl asking the Rangers and Raymond if the place that she is in is where the party is about to take place. And as a contribution, she has a poster of 7 people joining hands together. Now, this was where I asked myself, where did this little girl come from? How did she even get here? Was she even an established character in the very first moment? No, she just came in at the 11th hour. And she ends up being the one to break the spell by a little song that she ends up singing. The song itself may be rather chintzy and really corny, but at the same time, a part of me does understand why this little girl, who I will call Debbie Ex Machina, existed. She just ends up reminding them that the holidays is all about love, compassion, and tolerance, which is fine and dandy. But the worst part is that Debbie Ex Machina is not seen in the party, and we don't even get to see any acknowledgement from the Rangers of her existence, let alone have little Miss Debbie Ex Machina introduce them to her mother. It felt like Debbie Ex Machina's presence was completely superfluous, and she added very, very little to the entire story other than to remind the Rangers that the true spirit of the holidays is all about love and tolerance. That's that. I mean, say what you will about Becky from I'm Dreaming of a White Ranger. At least her presence and her existence have a point. She was a lonely little girl who was scared that her father was not going to come to see her sing at the Christmas pageant. And she was just a lonely little girl who also wanted some companionship from the Rangers. And we even get to see Becky and her father reunite and even see her join in the Christmas pageant with a smile on her face. Debbie Ex Machina, on the other hand, was just brought in from out of nowhere to cure the Rangers of their curse and find that holiday cheer once again. She doesn't even participate in the party. We don't even get to see her mom. And worst of all, we don't even get to know her name. That's it. She was just a little girl who was asking about the party, wondering why the Rangers and Raymond were fighting each other, and hammers home the message that the best gift that you could ever give to someone is love. No explanation as to how she knew about the party, no explanation as to why she was not there at the party with her mom. No, nothing. She was just simply there to be the Deus Ex Machina. And it just made me realize that is just a darn shame, because how the Rangers got duped into hating each other for their differences was started by the bias blaster. And it would have been nice to see Tommy, Adam, Rocky, Tanya, Kat, and maybe even Raymond do battle with the cogs, and we would have been treated with that. Instead, they ended up standing there, which made the scene completely devoid of any action or tension whatsoever. Like I said, a complete and utter shame. This episode would have been better if the flashback scenes were cut, if Debbie Ex Machina were not there, and the Rangers were left to solve the problem for themselves. How, you ask? Why not have Zordon teleport all of their holiday paraphernalia to somewhere outside the place they're having the party in and go on a scavenger hunt? However, here's the catch. Instead of finding their own holiday paraphernalia, they will have to search for each other's holiday paraphernalia. For instance, it would have been really cool and interesting if Tommy were to search for Raymond's menorah, or Adam were to search for Tanya's candles, Rocky were to search for ingredients to make Catherine's barbecued shrimp, and if Catherine tried to find the ingredients on how to make tamales. Therefore, they would have all learned from each other and learned to realize that their own biases and their own prejudices that they had against each other caused by the bias blaster will end up dissipating, and the spell would have been broken. And they'll even have a deeper understanding of what their traditions are, which is the main message that it was trying to make. And to make this even more interesting, why not have Prince Sprocket and his cogs be the main obstacles for Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, Kat, and Raymond to battle against? That would have made for an even better holiday episode, rather than just having little Debbie Ex Machina cure them of their hate and replacing it with love through her little song. So I could definitely see a season to remember improve in terms of cutting the fat and replacing it with a little bit more tension, a little bit more excitement, and more obstacles that the Rangers and their friend Raymond have to go through in terms of using their heads and, of course, their hearts, as corny as it sounds. And it would have been more interesting to have them embark on this scavenger hunt to find each other's piece of holiday paraphernalia and not their own, while having to contend with the obstacles implanted by King Mondo, Queen Machina, Prince Sprocket, and the Cogs to cure themselves of this curse they found themselves in, and even back it up with some good old kick-butt martial arts action with having Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, Kat, and Raymond kick some cog butt and retrieve each other's pieces of holiday paraphernalia. Therefore, they would have also learned from each other and learned to appreciate each other on a much deeper level, as well as appreciate each other's cultures and traditions on a much deeper level, thus breaking the spell and not relying on Debbie Ex Machina to fix their problems. At least the episode ended well with the main Rangers and Raymond celebrating the holidays, although it's kind of a shame that Debbie Ex Machina was not there with her mom so that the Rangers could thank her for making them realize that the holidays are meant to be spent with love and tolerance. But as I said before, her presence and her existence were completely wasted, and if you just cut her out altogether, nothing would have changed. And if you just cut her out altogether, the Rangers would have to challenge themselves to find it within their own minds and hearts to fight off this curse. That would have been a much more satisfying holiday episode. And yes, it might have been nice seeing Tommy's and Kat's future selves with their grandchildren, especially with the eldest grandchild being a Power Ranger just like what they used to be. But it just felt kind of superfluous and it added nothing to the entire story other than to have a bunch of Tom Burley shippers and Tom Burley fans cry foul at how little development Tommy and Kat ended up receiving as a couple. At least the big treat of a season to remember is seeing Bulk and Skull in their misadventure of finding out who stole all the fruitcake. And it's revealed that it was Rito Revolto and Goldar who stole all the fruitcake to make one gargantuan fruitcake. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And it's always fun seeing Bulk and Skull interact with Rito Revolto and Goldar. That was just comedy gold right there. And at least Bulk's and Skull's misadventures were kind of an antidote to an otherwise extremely polarizing and rather saccharine holiday episode that could have been better if some of the fat were trimmed and if there were more tension and action added into the mix. Other than that, A Season to Remember was a disappointing holiday episode. I know that there are some people in the comments below who are going to say that I'm being way too mean at this episode or I don't really seem to have a heart, but please, please, please hear me out. I don't want to hate this episode. I don't want to feel disappointed in it, but it was just not my most favorite episode. It did not resonate with me, but at least I can give it the benefit of the doubt that it could have been a lot better if Debbie Ex Machina were expounded a lot more, if she were more useful to the main plot, or if she were written out of the plot completely so that the Rangers and Raymond could solve the problem themselves, especially if Zordon had made them go on a scavenger hunt for each other's paraphernalia, only to be confronted with King Mondo, Queen Machina, Prince Sprocket, and all of their cogs serving as obstacles that they have to overcome. And it would have been just as wonderful seeing Prince Sprocket throw temper tantrums of him losing all of his presents rather than seeing him gloat like the little craphead that he is. Regardless, I'm still not a fan of this episode and it could have been a lot better. And in terms of seeing Tommy's and Kat's old selves with their grandchildren, I didn't take too much of an issue with it. The main issue that I had with A Season to Remember was the uber convenient way the climax was resolved through a little girl reminding the Rangers and Raymond that the holidays are supposed to be about love and tolerance, especially when she sings that corny yet kind of chintzy little song that she sings to them. Other than that, I thought that cutting Debbie Ex Machina out of the story, as well as completely eliminating the scenes of older Tommy, older Kat, and their grandkids would have made the episode better, thus making Tommy, Rocky, Adam, Kat, Tanya, and Raymond go through this alone and fight all these obstacles with everything they got, not only in terms of challenging themselves physically, but also mentally, and in some cases spiritually. That would have been more satisfactory than the Deus Ex Machina that was received at the end, let alone the climax of this episode. I have to thank you all for watching and listening to my critique of A Season to Remember from Power Rangers Zeo, and I'd also like to hear your thoughts on this episode. Did you really like it? Did you feel like there could have been a lot more to this episode rather than just having Little Debbie Ex Machina solving the problems? Or did you feel like this episode was not your cup of tea? Please comment below and I'd love to hear from all of you. Well, that's it for my critique of A Season to Remember from Power Rangers Zeo. Tune in later where I take a look at pretty much one of the most maligned Christmas specials in all of Power Rangers history. And I'm talking about Alpha's Magical Christmas. So until then, happy holidays, everybody, and may the power protect you.